Welcome. Week 7, Chapter 7, Human Nature and Organizational Behavior. Basically, we're dealing with employees. So in the last few chapters, we've been telling you how to deal with the technical side, how to change, how to set up passwords, logins, disaster recovery. Now we want to look at the human factor. What does that have to do with it? How are we going to get our employees to be safe, secure, to be happy, to be motivated? So the human element is what we're going to be looking at. We want to understand how the human side contributes to it. So, what are our learning objectives? Define the proper security controls with the user, domain, and mitigate risks and threats. But we're going to be looking at human resources. How do we practice protecting the employees and the data? Technology and policies that implement access controls and dictate behavior. Help reinforce those. In the ideal world, we never have to worry about access control, but because we can tell the employees, humans aren't as straightforward as computers. They have a mind of their own, and they cause problems. So that's what we're going to be looking at, how to reduce that issue. So, human nature, we have unintentional threats, hackers and motivation, and social engineering. What is human nature? In sum, it qualifies in traits shared by all humans. Human nature is how we interpret events, how we react to others, and the choices to make every day. It's grounded by how you grew up, who you grew up with, what were you exposed to. Human nature is an important element to who we are and how we act. We can choose to act contrary to human nature when we believe it suits our interests, or we can follow along. We can do the norms and avoid punishment, or we can not follow it and have to deal with the laws and penalties that go with it. So that's what we're looking at this chapter. How do we deal with humans? The unintentional threat. Human beings make mistakes. No one's perfect. When employees have access to data they don't need, the data risks accidentally deletion. So someone might not need it, they delete it, not knowing it was needed somewhere else. Another common problem is the employees who inadvertently share sensitive data with someone who shouldn't have that. Many employees don't understand the risk of viruses and worms or sophisticated phishing attempts. Employee might open an infected email and forward it to coworkers without realizing the danger. Another source of malware, your USB flash drives. Employees often share them, and there could be information on there or viruses that once they pass it, it spreads the virus. Laptops and other mobile devices have issues. When users don't exercise physical control over their laptops and smartphones, the device can often disappear. So we need to understand, we have to train our employees. Hackers and motivation. There are two very elements of malicious access. The attacker who seeks to break into the computer system and steal resources to protect them. And what motivates certain individuals? The risk of reward. A hacker usually has two primary motives to break in: wealth and status. Very young hackers could be as young as 12, 13, and are just looking for video games. The last area is social engineering. Social engineering is the desire to help and trust others. For example, let's say you're approaching the front door of the building and see a delivery person. You'll open the door for them. What happens if they didn't have access? You assume typical social engineering effects. So that basically, if someone calls you out of the blue and says, "Hey, I'm from IT, I need your login and password," and you give it to them thinking you're helping them, but in reality, they're stealing your information. Basically, humans are pleasant in nature. So basically, if someone comes up to me, we assume identity. We assume that someone who says they are, they are. We trust them. But legitimate purpose is to ask questions. Are they really who they are? Believability. The social engineering is careful to inject as much believability truth into it, his story, to try to gain your access. Multiple contacts. The more contacts a person has with another individual or group, the more likely the person is considered trusted as part of the group. Like, hey, somebody might call you, hey, I got your name from Fred in accounting. You might not know him, I got a business card from him, but he got, by the fact that they said this other person's name builds that trust. Once request for help gains the trust of the victim by asking for help. So as humans, we always want to help someone. So if someone says, hey, I need help with this, you go out of your way to help them. So that's what social engineering is about. So how does HR deal with this? Basically, we should have background, pre-employment checks, transitioning an individual from us to them. Are they who they say they are? Do they go back and check their college, where did they grow up? What do they have? What information? So this is some of the things that we need to look at. So what is some information they might look at? Driver's license, credit reports, medical record, bankruptcy, military service, school records, character references. Most of this stuff is available as third-party software, and most of it's available online. A lot of this information is not private. It's just generic information it has. Which means school records. Anyone can call and check on my school. Where did I go to middle school? Where did I go to here? This is public information. What can't be considered public? What is not considered an employment decision? General accordance. Negative credit information over 7 years old cannot be considered. In addition, employees investigating bankruptcy history, the information cannot be used. What rights do the applicant have? If an employer uses information obtained in a credit check to deny employment, the employer is required to notify the applicant of the decision, provide the name and phone number of the reporting agency so that applicants can have time to dispute that. What happens if you hire the wrong person? At best, a bad person can lead to employee morale, failed reports, and expensive hiring and rehiring, replacing the employee. Hiring at probation, prohibited fines, penalties may seem unreasonable, but hiring unqualified can do the job. So, ongoing observation. After a hiring decision is made and perhaps the initial probationary expires, it seems unnecessary to continue to observe the employee. However, where ongoing observation is part of the standard procedure, many organizations are able to prevent incidents of the workplace violence by identifying disgruntled employees. Who is a disgruntled employee? Someone who's angry, dissatisfied, usually with some aspect of his or her employment. They often believe they're unfairly passed over for promotions and expect to accomplish more than reasonable. Some disgruntled employees are easy to spot. They complain loudly to anyone who's willing to listen, unfair treatment they receive. Others are more difficult to identify. Some things to watch for. Potential are they work consistently below the average. They're not doing their job. A pattern of coming in late and leaving early. They're never on time. This is what happens. A loner, someone who doesn't like to talk to other people, that they won't socialize. The socialite, the opposite, the loner person who spends a lot of time socializing, networking, cohort, may look for allies. Display aggressive behavior. Most disgruntled employees show up for work with the intention of cause harm to coworkers, but they still represent a significant risk to the organization. In 2006, Payne Weber, his position, but left a parting gift, a logic bomb, deleted over 1,000 files. Proper ways to terminate someone. Terminate employees sensitive to issues handled carefully. On one hand, the soon-to-be former employee will be treated respectfully and with understanding of all losing one's job is a traumatic event. Lack of termination. Locked the terminal. One company I worked at, before they were even told that they were being fired or let go, they were locked out of the system to prevent them from going in and causing any issues. Remove accounts from the databases. Don't allow them in. Change all passwords. If they had administration rights, passwords would change. Arrange for the company property to be returned. This allows you to, so they don't go back to their desk. Consider how to terminate an employee will allow to retrieve personal belongings. What are security? Should they be escorted off the facility? Change and lock the desks, doors. Remove terminated employees' emails and passwords. So these are some of the ways that you should go about terminating the employee. Organizational structure. What strategy do we have? Access controls models based on organization. Employees are given access based on their tasks. Access rules are based on a balance of confidentiality. So the CEO has certain access. Administrator has different outright. Accounting has different has access. And none of them should overlap. Each department, each person should have only specific of what they need to do their job. Most organizations are structured in a hierarchy composed of senior management, operational management, and staff. In terms of access control, this structure implies a higher level employee should have access to higher level, and lower levels should have rights to only they need. The skilled social engineer can exploit this by posing as a high-level executive and to get the information that they need. All social engineer has to do is call the help desk, claim to be the executive or executive assistant, and the task support that person, assuming the executive must be authorized to have that access. So you just need to be careful of this. Job rotation. Job rotation minimizes the effects of dishonesty, often used for sensitive positions, especially those who have it. For the most sensitive positions, especially those who are directly responsible for crucial information and access support, job rotation is a way to minimize the effects of dishonesty. Take, for example, representative signing checks and reconcile organization and bank statements. If a single individual holds the responsibility for several years, that person could embezzle significant amounts of money from the organization. However, if the responsibility rotates among the staff of half a dozen managers, or the manager could embezzle for no more than a few months, knowing that the next manager would check the checks to make sure that they would have it. The job rotation can help that. They also, mandatory vacation acts as a measure. Requiring a person to take off provides time of evidence to surface, can reduce the selective social engineering. In some industries, especially the financial sector, periodic vacations are required as part of the employment agreement. Periodic or mandatory vacations are a security measure. If the individual highly sensitive information does something dishonest, require the person to be on for 2 or 3 weeks, evidence of that dishonesty will surface. Another benefit of vacations, which isn't often overlooked, is they can reduce the success of social engineering. When an individual in a high-stress job for a long period, that stress can cause the sense of burnout. So this reduces burnout also. Separations of duty ensures that a single person doesn't handle all the crucial facts, and goals to avoid temptation by committing fraud. So separation of duty ensures that a single person does not handle crucial decisions and activities, especially those involving a high level of trust. The goal of this is to avoid temptations, commit fraud, or other illegal activities. Most people consider themselves reasonable, honest, and consider stealing wrong and immoral. However, life is messy. Concepts like right and wrong can be blurred. So basically, if corporate, where I worked, the corporate accounts payable always had to have 2 manager signatures on the checks to allow it to be processed. The 2-person control is designed to eliminate the opportunity for theft, fraud, and other harmful activities. The concept states that there must be 2 authorized individuals available to approve a sensitive activity. In the preceding scenario, 2-people control would benefit. Collusion. Two-person control is not foolproof. Someone can, if you have two people working together, they can check that out. However, breaching the subject would be more difficult. And monitoring and oversight. Although two-person control can be an effective way to remove opportunity for harmful and dangerous activities, it's only effective to those to enforce it. If the financial firm required 2 signatures on all checks, the CEO know about it, it would prevent that. So these are just some of the ways that we can go about ensuring that we have good information. Responsibility of access ownership. Ultimate, the responsibility of the ownership of sensitive data and other resources to monitor and prevent abuses. Data owners should be responsible for disclosing to users any relevant legal regulations or ethics, implementing a data classification, maintaining a list of authorized users, implementing procedures, developing policies, and providing this. This allows us all to have information about what's going on. Maintaining a list of authorized. Who has access to this? Providing users with this information and training how to protect this. This allows us to have protection over what's happening. So, how do we go about training employees? Well, this is a big part that's often overlooked. Well-trained workforce is a valuable asset to any access control, especially when it comes to defeating social engineering tactics. Employees cannot be expected to respond appropriately. Simply hiring a new person and handing a handbook is not acceptable. There should be some kind of training, especially security. The training should be ongoing, telling employees about security issues when they happen. Include multiple formats. Not everyone learns by reading. There might be videos or games or something else that will help us. Be interactive. People remember information more clearly when they're able to interact with it. Role playing. Include multiple points of contact. It can take up to a dozen repetitions before a concept becomes internalized. Place security awareness signs around the workforce schedule. Security awareness. Information technology security surveys conducted by well-known accounting firms found many organizations have some awareness of training. Most awareness permit important elements. Less than 25 organizations have no way to track awareness of program effectiveness. Security awareness is a big part. A security awareness policy specifies what individuals, employees are responsible for in terms of information security. It also defines the responsibility of managers and information owners. Because security is a very changing field, many security awareness policies do not lay out specific procedures, but rather refer employees to other resources. In general, employees must agree to read the following security procedures. Managers are responsible that they get read. Organizations shall provide ongoing training. Information owners should classify information to ensure the proper employees have that. Employees should immediately report any suspicious thing. Many security awareness policies also include references to others, so we need to make sure that happens. So what is ethics? We all grow up. As a child, most people learn the basic concepts. Treat others as you'd want them to treat you. Of course, life for adults is rarely that simple. Adults tend to complicate things. The study of ethics is an essential study, those complications and how to navigate them back and forth. What is right and wrong? Right and wrong may seem like a basic concept. Most children learn that lying and stealing is wrong, but in the real world, organizational behavior is a gray area and between the two absolutes. Most decisions have to be this. Ethics go beyond stealing. Organization ethics programs are essential for defining the core values of organization. However, an organization that forgets to ignore the code of ethics once it has been written does not fully take advantage of it. An ethical program is far more than written a document and involves several stages. Define the core value of the organization. Ensure that those core values are reflected in the code of ethics. An organization's core values should be limited to those in education, and they should be trained. Solicit input from a wide range of stakeholders. All levels and all departments should have a stake in what the code of ethics should say. Write or revise the code of ethics, including information on where employees can go for clarification and how to look at it. Create a review structure within the organization that supports the code of ethics. Have a committee. Conduct training sessions on what it's going to be. The process is critical in the times of rapid change and crisis, when there might not be time to deliberate the ethics. Human resources should be an integral part of enforcing structure and policies by providing resources. Human nature is complex and cannot be used to explain every incident or individual organization behavior, but it's usually a factor in the system. You'll discover some of the best practices for working human nature achieve positive security behavior. Employees cannot follow practices they do not know about or understand. A comprehensive training program is a good way to start. They should be signing off on it. It should be kept in their files. For many organizations claim to encourage discussion between individual employees and their managers, but few actually do, encouraging managers to talk to their employees. Encourage risk-taking. Many negative security behaviors have an element of risk-taking. Channel that urge to take risks into areas that it can benefit the organization rather than hurt. Encourage employees to take creative risks, both with the organization and their private lives. What did we cover? Human resources, access control. How do we put security measures in place on our domain security? And best practices for human net. We discussed how human nature both insists upon access control and fights against it. You read about how skilled social engineering can exploit human nature and obtain unauthorized access to information, and how training is. Human nature introduces into the life. So we looked at how all this comes together and how information is. So thank you. Remember to smile. Have a good weekend.